third-party application in your database, mapping the office entity IDs to your offices, the public MLS IDs to your agents, and entering your FTP IDX credentials. It will also cover the various settings and options available, as well as how to set up the import to run automatically and reset the automatic import whenever it gets hung. KBA's 4148 MLS Data Feed Setup Guide, KBA 4225 How to Set Up the MLS Feed to Run Automatically, and KBA 4231 How to Check the Status or Reset an Automatic Unattended MLS Feed are relevant. To begin to set up the MLS, you must go to the MLS Interface menu. Select the Import-Export Utility icon, and then select the Add Third-Party Interface button option. Then you must enter the interface code for your MLS app. In this case example, I'm using SWMRETS. Select Continue, and it will download the interface information. Once that happens, we now have to stop and close and set up the MLS office IDs. To do the mapping of your offices to the import, we go to the Transactions menu, the Agents and Offices submenu, the Offices icon. We select the Find button, and then we select in the office type the non-co-op option. In my example here, I have 3 offices. Now, if each individual office had its own unique ID, I would load that, assign the board and the ID to each office. In my example here, the one ID covers all 3 offices. You need to select the office you wish to retrieve and retrieve it. Once you do, you go to the board name field, you hit the drop down, and then enter the office entity ID to the right of the board assignment. This company office is now mapped to this particular import, and the next time that we run the import, listings will come in because it now knows the office ID of the listings that it needs to import. In addition to the office IDs, each individual agent record must also be mapped to the MLS import using the agent's unique MLS ID. To do this step, we go to the Agent Information icon, retrieve the agent record, and go to the Import tab. In here, we assign the board name via the drop-down and enter the agent's unique MLS entity ID. You must do that for each agent so that as the listings come in, it will know how to assign and will assign the agent to the listing records when they come in. Note, whenever you load a new agent, you must remember that you have to map them. You have to come in on any new agent record, select the board, and enter their entity ID before the import can assign their listings when they come in. Once these actions are accomplished, we'll return to the MLS import. We return to the MLS interface menu. We select the import icon, and to run the import, we just simply highlight it and hit open. This action will bring us to the actual import screen. As you can see, it's counting down here, but your options and the defaults are both data and pictures. Okay, you could select data or just pictures, but the default is both. We also have the default option set to include the new co-op agents and offices information from the feed. Another item here is the email results to field. It's very important that you enter an email address for this field. That field will support when you set up your import to run automatically or unattended, for example, at 6 a.m. in the morning, okay, That field is used for that one particular event to let you know if the import completes successfully. It will transmit an email to the email address entered here. And then that's also your ability to know that if you don't get the email in the expected time frame, to check the import to see if it's either hung or some other routine or something's ran on the host PC here and has caused this application to get hung, or that there might be an error associated with it. So that email address is very critical. There's also a test function there to check to make sure that the email address is accurate. The next step would be to complete on the download listing screen the URL. These fields will be blank. You need to enter the URL associated with your account user ID, your account data password. If there's any instructions, they'll tell you that you have to use a Taro 1 user agent setting. File date. Most imports will have a backdate that you can use to backdate and get previous listings. On the initial import, you may wish to, if you have a backdate feature, to backdate it a few months to get the older listings. If you haven't got your listings in there, you can backdate that to as far back as you need to go to get your listings in. Listings will not duplicate as long as you have your listing records in ProGold entered with the MLS ID. The import in that case will simply align itself to the record that's already in ProGold and bring in any photos or other transaction information that would be applicable to that existing record. To begin the import, we select Download, and the import starts. There also, when the manual import, the data part finishes, there'll be the secondary import screen comes up for downloading your picture options. If you are not there, it's going to count down and then automatically continue. If you are actually observing the import, you can go ahead and select the download option. Once you select the download option, it will continue until you finish the import. It's also important to note that an MLS import, depending on several different factors, some can take 10 minutes, 20 minutes, or 30 minutes. Some can take 2 to 3 or 4 hours, depending on the nature of the import. In this case, I have finished mine. Once it finishes, we select the Yes option to view the import results screen. Once we select Yes, the import results screen will open. And if any listings have imported, they will display here. Okay, that concludes the operation of it. I'm going to go back to the interface screen and reopen the main screen. There are also some additional options here that I'd like to cover. In the upper left, there's a Help button. We select the Help button. This will open the import documentation file for this import. The import documentation file contains the detailed MLS mappings from ProGold to the MLS feed. It will go by property type and give you the different fields that are provided or not provided in it, all the way through for all the different property types, statuses, features, anything of those that are available on here are all covered in this documentation file. It's very important that you print out and review this file when you receive your MLS import. We also have another feature on the import screen called the Diag Raw Data button. This option is used where you can enter an MLS number and check to see if it's actually in the data feed. Sometimes the timing of when the MLS provider may or may not get it in the update file that night on the server, and you can check the feed to see if it's actually in the files that they provided by entering the MLS number and then checking the date of each individual data feed file. Obviously, if the record's not in the feed, there's no way ProGold can import it. You can also use this function to actually retrieve the record that is in the feed and check and see the individual data elements associated with it. There may be times where we'll ask you, or you'll have a KBA sent to you that tells you that you need to check this option and perform a certain technique here to see if the listing's in the feed or if there's certain settings on that record. This finishes the operation of a manual import process. We also have the ability to set up and establish the unattended or automatic import process. I'm going to cover that now. As we return to ProGold, KBA 4225 governs how to set up the MLS feed to run automatically on Type C feeds. When we perform this function, the instructions tell you that you must use the ProGold Utilities option, which is the red paperclip down in the system tray, to launch the Utilities menu. From the Utilities menu, we will assign the MLS interface menu. At the ProGold Utility menu, we select the MLS interface option. We select the task scheduler icon. Here we would select the database that we want to assign it to. Click Add New Task. I'm going to edit the one that's here. We fill in the task name, assign MLS feed to ProGold task, and then enter third-party interface code in the parameters field. All this is covered by the KBA. Once those are done, we click the Schedule tab. We can select the time. The most typical time to use is 6 a.m. in the morning. That gives the company time to get all the data updated, and it still gives you 2.5 hours of import time before anyone would even approach coming in the office. We set the time. You select your time, AM, and we want it to execute it daily. Then we click Save and Exit, and that'll establish setting up the import to run automatically. As you can see, it's set up now to run. Next run tomorrow, 3/22/2011 at 6 a.m. Another important note, you have multiple PCs that are using ProGold. You want to perform this entry when we set up the interface on the PC that hosts the database and is performing the import. Very important that you want that. That maximizes the efficiency of the import process to be on the same machine that's doing it. We close the screen, and then we close the utilities. Once the MLS import is set up to run automatic, the way to monitor it is to monitor it via the email. As we noted earlier, the import process can take anywhere from 10-20 minutes to up to 2 to 4 hours. Okay? You want to run your import a couple of times manually, get a feel for how it runs on a daily basis, and then you can kind of gauge how long it takes to run the import. After that, once you set it up to run automatically, you get a feel for if that 2.5 hour window is sufficient time. You should expect to have that email in that email address that's assigned to the import every morning when someone comes in to check at 8:30. Make sure when you assign that email address that it is going to be checked daily, because that's your method of monitoring the import to see if it's either still running. It's possible that it might run, or that it might be hung or has an error on it. In the case where you don't receive your email and you want to check the import, KBA 4231 has the instructions for how to do that. Once again, the instruction will tell you to right-click the red paper clip in the bottom right in your system tray on your computer, select Launch Utilities option, and then select the MLS interface option on the utility menu and the task scheduler icon. Once you do that, you want to open the window here and look to the right. If current state says idle, that means it's completed. Okay, it's not running right now, or you might see that it's still running, but that could also be an indication of that it's hung. If you see that it's running, it's been an excessive amount of time, what you want to do is select the task, and you can set the task to idle, and that'll stop it from running. You can close this, and manually, you want to manually run the import at this process. 2 reasons. One, to check and see that if it was just something that happened on the machine, a setting, an environmental issue that occurred during the time frame here of when it was importing. Could have been another task on the computer lit off and interrupted the process here. Or there could be an error on it. Either way, you want to run it manually and see if it will successfully complete. If it doesn't, you want to monitor it to ensure and see if there's any error codes. If there is, you want to make a screenshot and forward it to us, to Taro Help Desk. If it manually completes and is successful, feed to have it start tomorrow automatic,